Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Geeky Gentlemen. So, I feel like I should let everyone know we're reasonably sure Milan has been, killed off by this point. I'm reasonably sure he's at the bottom of a ditch or something.
I'm gonna make a prediction and say it was Keanu Reeves that got him.
It seems logical, if nothing else.
Yeah. I feel like that's the guy that you want to get killed by lately.
Sure,
yeah.
Why not?
I mean, have you seen John Wick? He's totally the way to go.
Oh, okay. So Steve, what are we talking about though this week on Geeky Gentlemen?
All right, so today we're talking about something that, for the most part, is something that's going to come up in the next month or so. We're talking about awards season and awards in general. So, the Academy Awards and their Best Picture nominations and Golden Globes and such, and what does that all really even mean? And do we need it? Or is it really just a bunch of snotty old rich white people that make these decisions for us that ultimately have no meaning or say in what we actually think? Or it's something
Okay, so in order of the questions you just asked, no, and yes. Okay. And immediately the tone is set for the rest of this video.
If there's anyone who's thinking that we aren't completely being clear yet, the essence here is the Academy sucks and we hate them. Yeah,
really. And there are reasons for that, and there are times that I feel more strongly about that than others. But that's the general consensus for me.
Yeah.
So, where do we want to start, Steve?
So I want to start with the lunacy of a Best Picture.
Go for it.
Because as critics and as reviewers, we accept that everything has some sort of critical merit or not, and we judge it on that level. But we also judge it on its own merit. So we judge a farce by its ability to be farcical. We judge a parody on its ability to be a parody, an action movie on its ability to be an action movie, etc., etc., etc. And so you make for a fair criticism in terms of itself. Now, with the Academy Awards and Best Picture, I don't know how you can get a Best Picture outside of just what the percentage of people preferred something to something else, and that's not a fair assessment of it. I don't know how you can say The Dark Knight is a better movie than Doctor Strangelove. They're completely different things.
Yeah.
So, what's to say that one movie tops the other? And maybe just to compare within the same years, let's say The Imitation Game beats Gone Girl for this year's Academy Award Best Picture, if any of them are nominated. The Imitation Game is a biopic. Gone Girl is an adapted screenplay about marriage. I don't know how you could even begin to compare those two.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like at best, it might be considered, I suppose, for an argument in its favor. Really, Best Picture is more of a Best Drama award when you think about it, because...
Which it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be. That should be its own category. But when you think about it, there's no way anything's getting picked besides, a drama. There's no... Would you ever see the day where a comedy could possibly win Best Picture?
Not lately, no. And I feel like that's just hypocritical in certain respects, because we're talking about people that are appreciating the art of film, but they only pick the films that are really artsy-fartsy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because at the same time, I can see why you do that. You know, there are innovations that wouldn't otherwise be recognized in the super artsy films. But at the same time, it's like, guys, you're picking stuff that no one has watched.
And in certain cases, they pick stuff that's recognizable and good, but I always want to look at the decision process that these people are going through. Because it seems like there isn't so much consistency as much as these are titles that are in the headlines, and so we pick them.
Mm-hmm.
And the Best Picture is always kind of an arbitrary choice.
It really is, and it just feels like there seems to be an attitude of it's your turn in the Academy, and that bothers the hell out of me.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been like that for at least the last 20 years. If you go back before then there's at least a little bit of diversity in what they're picking. But just especially lately, it seems to be movies that are really targeted old school, older people, older generational movies. And we just kept going down the list of one extreme to the other and then back to the beginning again.
Well, there's that, and there's also the favoritism. Like, what's the Coen Brothers movie? Burn After Reading?
Yes.
That movie is fucking dumb, and it was nominated for Best Picture. Can you believe that? That movie was stupid as shit.
I mean, we got nominations like The Help and War Horse, and those are not great movies.
I haven't, to be fair, I haven't seen either of those, but they do seem... Like, that's the other part about it, too. Like, there's the favoritism, there's the, like, it's your turn because, you know, you've been around for so long. And then there's just the fact that it's such a predictable formula to get a Best Picture nod anymore. I remember a YouTube video a couple years back, and I doubt it's still up anymore because I think he used, like, a copywritten song or something. But this guy made, like, the award movie, and it was just, like, a trailer for a movie where he was, like, of every single, you know, Best Picture movie you've ever seen. And he goes, I've got to prove to the woman that I love her while helping a retarded child win this sports thing and fighting with the Native American allegory against the U.S. government allegory. And, like, those are all direct lines from the dude's trailer.
That takes place 10 years in the past, and there's blurred lines of communism sprinkled around it.
Yeah, all this shit. And it's just the whole thing about a Best Picture or just an Academy Awards movie is that they're so formulaic by this point, to the point where you can make jokes like that. And, like, you know, I haven't seen The Help, but it seems like it's an Academy Awards movie, you know? It's just something that seems like it was made to give black actresses something to do and try to grab some statues, you know?
Well, the Academy's got this thing also of, if there's a movie that's heavily about African Americans, then it certainly gets nominated, if not wins. If there's a movie that's made in India that's really popular, then it certainly gets nominated, if not wins. And there doesn't seem to be any basis for that. Like Slumdog Millionaire, that's a really bad movie. But the only reason to get nominated is because evidently it made a lot of money in America. It's not a good movie, but they act like it is, and it's important, so therefore it gets a nod. I mean, we can go back just a few years and go to, say, the year that A Beautiful Mind and Moulin Rouge and Lord of the Rings were all nominated together. I don't know how you compare those three, let alone pick one over the other.
How did Moulin Rouge get nominated for anything? It's fucking awful.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even so, comparing it to things like Lord of the Rings Fellowship and A Beautiful Mind, like, there's no common ground there aside from maybe fantasy. And even that's a stretch.
I agree. It's fucking out of nowhere. Like, how do you compare those movies at all? It's not apples and oranges. It's apples and, like, fucking anvils.
Just go to the year before that, and it was Gladiator nominated alongside Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. What the fuck do those two have to do with each other?
Well, there are swords.
I guess that's about it.
No, the year that my opinion of the Academy, there are 2 years actually, but the year my opinion of the Academy was first formed was 2007. when you had a number of films. 2007 was a great year for cinema. You had a number of films up for the Best Picture. And these are reasonably comparative. Let's see here. It was There Will Be Blood,
No Country for Old Men, Atonement, Juno, and Michael Clayton.
Yeah. And No Country for Old Men ended up winning, which it shouldn't have, because There Will Be Blood was amazing. Michael Clayton was just okay. George Clooney trying a little too hard. I like George Clooney when he's more aware of himself.
Yeah, fair enough.
But like you look at a movie like There Will Be Blood and like No Country for Old Men, and there are clearly things you can compare there. They are both loosely speaking westerns, and there's just a lot going into both movies. But There Will Be Blood lost because No Country for Old Men is a Coen Brothers movie, and they're just the favorites of the Academy. They get nominated every year.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Fargo's good. The Big Lebowski is good. But the Coen brothers are not, the reincarnation of Jesus, everybody. I don't feel like I should have to let people know that. But I do.
Yeah, I mean, they just recently made Unbroken, and that's not a good movie at all.
Yeah, I mean, they have a good grasp of filmmaking, their shot composition, all that's really interesting, and they, I mean, I certainly wouldn't call any Coen Brothers movie cliche, but they're not all genius. Didn't they make Men Who Stare at Goats as well, or is that someone else? I forget. That definitely seems like a Coen Brothers movie.
Men Who Stare at Goats, not that I can remember, and it doesn't say so here on Wikipedia either, so I'm
Coen Brothers movie list. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. But yeah, you're right about that. Coen Brother movies, at a point, it seems like Christopher Nolan movies always get nominated, unless they're comic book movies, which is another thing of, if it doesn't sound artsy-fartsy, it's not going to get any kind of credit, unless it's some kind of technical achievement.
Yeah, and technical achievement just gets thrown out the window, which, as someone who's into CGI and stuff, is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that honestly pisses me off, and it this is something for another time, but when people go, oh, the effects being good doesn't mean anything, no, it does.
No, yeah, it does. Like, we know almost for a fact at this point that Dawn of the Planet of the Apes isn't going to get nominated for Best Picture, but it should, because it's really fucking good, and Andy Serkis deserves a Best Actor nod, because he's really fucking good in it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. But no, like, the other year, 2007 was a big year for me to get to this point where I am on my my view of the Academy. And the other big year was 2010, when they finally expanded the available Best Picture nods, just to get more ratings for the award show, because more and more people were realizing that, wow, they just pick really fucking obscure movies that aren't that good.
You picked the year right before they made The Artist win, and that Artist movie was not that good.
Yeah, see, 2010, I mean, say what you will about Nolan and everything, but I think Inception is a fantastic movie, and it does everything that I wish modern Hollywood would do more, which is, not only pick things that are really cool, but, work in digital and practical effects together, have an amazingly interesting story, do something on screen that's, like, jaw-dropping again, and just, be fun. Like,
you almost want them to release some sort of criteria for what a Best Picture is supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think Inception hit all the right things. It's not only a blockbuster, but it's also intellectually stimulating. It's what The Matrix should be. Like, everyone talks about how intellectual The Matrix is, and we've had our conversations about how it's not. I think Inception does a lot of the stuff that The Matrix tried to do, and does it well. there's just a lot to that movie, and if anything deserves a Best Picture nod, I think if anything deserved the Best Picture award in 2010, it should have been that, because nothing else really came out that year that was that notable to me.
Well, I disagree slightly. I don't think I like Inception as much as you do, but I mean, 127 Hours was that year, The Fighter was that year, Toy Story 3 was that year. I'm not a fan of Toy Story 3, but The Social Network was really popular, and a lot of people read into that and think it's a really good movie. So there was material that year, but The King's Speech won.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know what elevates that movie. I don't know what they used to make The King's Speech feel like it stood out above those other movies.
And it really was. Wasn't Midnight in Paris that year as well?
Midnight in Paris was not that year.
Okay. It's hard to get to this point I'm trying to make here. Talk for a sec. I gotta let my mind work for a minute.
Okay. But yeah, it's strange because I mean I've made this point before, but Toy Story 3 and King's Speech have very little of anything to do in common. So you would want some sort of list of, I don't know, it's culturally and morally significant, or there's some sort of commentary to it or something, some kind of list of bullet points that make for a great Best Picture overall, something that encapsulates the zeitgeist of that filmmaking era or something like that. But they don't come out and say that ever, and there's no through line for any of these movies that's consistent.
Well, like, alright, so here's what I'm going to get at. So, actually, I'm not sure if this is another bad example from me or if this is, like, the best example ever. So, you know the YouTube channel Bat in the Sun?
Yes.
And how they do their, like, superhero beatdown things that are really fun to watch, but we're all really annoyed because they determine the outcome based on fan votes?
Yes.
And then I'm sure you've heard of Death Battle,
yes,
which does the same... You haven't?
I have, yeah.
Oh. Which does the same thing of take two superheroes or pop culture characters and make them fight. But Death Battle does something that I wish Bat in the Sun would do, which is it takes a logical argument for why this is the case of why this character would win. And it, you know, has evidence to support that and all this stuff.
My only argument against that would be is that the evidence that Death Battle gives us is usually pretty skewed and doesn't fit together overall.
But there's something there, you know. There's something there is what I'm getting at.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. All I mean by that is like the evidence they used for Goku versus Superman is ridiculous because they used inconsistent evidence for Superman to win. I mean,
I agree, but I don't argue against the example, please. Otherwise, we'll never get done with this, and I'll just be yelling at you that Goku is awesome. And
Goku should have won, is all I'm saying.
I agree. Anyway, so like Death Battle makes a logical argument. Whether or not the evidence it brings up is super valid or whatever, it's still a logical argument. Whereas whereas Bat in the Sun is, well, these people like this guy more. The way the Academy works is you have to have one or be nominated, I can't remember, to be a part of it in order to vote about which movie gets in. So the Academy has that same issue, but it just, for some reason, has all this respect of it's just, oh, well, it's just who's the biggest fan, who's got the most fans. It has nothing to do with quality at the end of the day. It doesn't matter why the movie is good or bad. I mean, if George Clooney makes a movie and invites all of his friends over to see it that are in the Academy, and I don't know, to get to Milan here, and gives them all blowjobs while they watch the movie, and he wins Best Picture because all those people that he gave blowjobs to voted for his movie, then it's just as valid a decision as if, like, a legitimately good movie were to win Best Picture. And that's the problem with the Academy.
This is true. And it's subsided at least a little bit in the last couple years, like 2012 with Argo, when it was nominated alongside Django and Lincoln and stuff like that. And then the year after, we got American Hustle and The Wolf of Wall Street and Gravity and stuff. So there's a little bit of shaking up going on with the extended bracket and with some of the newer members of the Academy, like Ben Affleck, that might influence that. Maybe going forward, it won't be as horribly skewed and just completely unfair in certain regards.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is still the system itself. Of you're the Academy, and you say what is the best movie of the year and what is the best of the best, and everyone listens to you. But we don't know why we do, aside from the fact that we do. And that seems really problematic.
Yeah, it's this weird thing of, like, who the fuck cares when you think about it?
Yeah.
Who cares what movie Brad Pitt and George Clooney like, you know? Does Brad Pitt have an Academy membership? I don't remember.
I think he does.
Okay.
He was nominated for Moneyball, and unless I'm mistaken, he was in a movie that's won an Academy Award before.
Okay. No, it's just when you think about it, like, what does it matter who these people think had the best movie or was the best actress? I guess it matters to the person, but I don't know why we should care. I could see if, an actress thought it was a good thing that all these other actors and directors and yada yada agreed that she was the best actress in any movie, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I don't know why the public should care. And for some reason we do.
And I don't know why we dump it on the industry itself to tell us what they thought they did the best. I mean, that seems a little bit redundant. If nothing else, should it not be the critics that get to decide and be part of the Academy?
Well, what I think it is, and I've been thinking about this a little bit lately, oddly enough, not related to this at all, see how well I prepare. There's this really understandable yet completely invalid attitude that people have when they are the either they make it themselves or they take part in the creation of the thing, like movies, television shows, whatever. People tend to be more protective not only of their own work but of the work of others if they are on that side of the spectrum. And it shouldn't be a surprise that most people who would consider themselves critics have tried their hand at artistic expression in different media and stuff like that, but it ultimately hasn't worked out. And so there is this attitude out there that the critic is just bitter, and so that they can't be trusted with determining what is the best. They just want to tear everything down and bring up to light, put on a pedestal the things that they like, so that the zeitgeist will be influenced by that. That's, I believe, the attitude that's out there. So I think that's why the Academy has decided that it will decide who's got the best picture and all that.
But I mean, that's an attitude that was started in late 1800s when we first got actual newspaper reviews of things and people didn't like what was being said about certain books or short stories or whatever. Mm-hmm. So essentially the problem with that argument for anyone to make, even the Academy, is you haven't evolved in 100 years to think that we are doing something other than that.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, they haven't. I'm trying to remember his name. It was the guy that was in Malibu's Most Wanted and Son of the Mask. Jeremy something. Anyway, he made a movie called Heckler, and he's a stand-up comedian. And the first half hour of that movie is great, because all it does is make fun of hecklers.
Right.
The guys that interrupt the middle of a stand-up act and everything. But here's the thing, the guy that's making the movie, Jeremy Pierce? No, that doesn't sound right. He just had Son of the Mask come out as he was in the process of right before he started making this documentary. And about halfway through the movie, it stops being about hecklers and starts being about critics. And he considers them the exact same thing. And it gets really problematic. And end of the day, he interviews all these different people, and not just other comedians. He interviews filmmakers and everything. And this is the argument that they make. The argument I was making is, oh, they're just creative people whose own work wasn't recognized. They're just bitter. And then, to be fair, that's not entirely inaccurate, because they played one of the clips from what's his name, Roger Ebert's movie.
Life Itself?
Yeah, I think so. The one with it was like a really weird fucking. Wait, no.
Wait, you're talking about the movie about the biopic about him, or the other movie?
The other movie that the movie that Siskel made. That piece of shit. Like, to be fair, it's a bad fucking movie.
No, it is. I'm just trying to figure out what it was called, because I've only seen it the once.
Jamie Kennedy.
Was that it?
Is the name of the guy that made the movie, Son of the Mask, just to make sure, but it just hit me there. I'm pretty sure that's who it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Son of the Mask is terrible.
Yeah, it's a bad movie, and like, yeah, Jamie Kennedy, I think, is the guy. Hold on one sec. Yeah, Jamie Kennedy. He's like, he gets depressed because people keep telling him, oh, well, it's going to be really hard to live up to Jim Carrey. Well, like, no shit, you shouldn't have made a movie called Son of the Mask, you dipshit. It's like all depressed and shit. Like, his doctor says, oh, wow, it's hard to live up to Jim Carrey. And he's like, just everyone's a fucking critic. I'm like, no, you made a bad movie. I'm sorry. It's awful.
Yeah, and I mean, there are lots of people in the industry that are like that. I love to point to this example, but when Cop Out came out and it was just universally panned, Kevin Smith is like, well, critics don't know anything, and I shouldn't start screening movies for them anymore. And that's just a really immature response.
It is, and I'm a Kevin Smith fan more so than you. I like the guy, but I do think he is, he's very emotionally attached to his stuff, and that's fair. You can be, and so I don't I understand being emotionally attached to stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if I made a movie or wrote a book and someone said it was pure shit, it would hurt my feelings, sure, but that doesn't mean that what they said is invalid or should not be taken into account for any sort of evaluation of my piece.
Yeah, I agree. Let me think here for a sec. Milan has his other channel, Russian Comic Book Geek, plug. He's been doing motion comics and stuff on that. And the other day he did one of the prologue to Blackest Night with where William Hand kills his family, kills himself. And that was to be fair to Milan, it was really well put together.
Right. And
it ended up looking really good and everything, and Milan does this thing where he wants me to, like, watch something while he watches me watch it, which is creepy, but whatever. So I watched the thing on webcam, and at the end of it he goes, so what'd you think? And I felt a little bit like a dick saying this, but the first thing I said was, you need to learn how to say the word core. Because twice, one of the Guardians of the Universe who created the Green Lantern Corps refers to it as the corpse. And while that could be a pun, considering, it's Blackest Night, it wasn't. And it's just really fucking distracting. And I bring this up, and I say that to Milan, he's like, are you fucking serious? I put all that work into it, and that's the one thing you notice. And, to be fair, like I said, it was really well done. Everyone should go check it out otherwise. But there's just that one thing. And I think as a critic, you can't help but point out or notice the negative things in a work. And as an artist, you overlook the negative things, and I think your immediate reaction is, oh, no one will care, oh, no one will notice, oh, it doesn't really matter, it's not that important. And so I think the emotional reaction of, oh, I can't believe you noticed that, or I can't believe you care about something so small, comes from this place of, this place of, oh, I noticed it and I didn't care, why does anyone else?
Yeah. And see, this is where there's a bit of a issue between certain directors who are just really detail-oriented and some that aren't. And I love using this example because it's my favorite superhero movie ever now, but Winter Soldier, with that movie, the directors for that movie sat down and had that script reworked dozens of times because they would just go through it with tooth and nail, making sure that every ounce of it was critic-proof, that they had as many plot holes as possible, and made the script as hammer-tight as possible.
Zola.
Yeah. Zola? Yeah, okay, but I mean, like, what? That's one minor thing through unreliable narrator in an entire 2.5-hour movie.
Okay, Steve. Okay.
Still, I mean, what? There's one issue in the entire movie? That's pretty good.
It's just there's not one issue, but okay.
Okay, what?
I just like to pick on Winter Soldier because it's like your sacred cow.
I mean, I feel like even if it wasn't, I would be hard pressed to find any issues with it aside from like one or two minor gripes.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because I feel like no matter how much someone would hate that movie, there's only two justifiable criticisms. But anyway, point being, certain directors are in that way of they make it so it's constantly good. And so we have these award ceremonies and these award shows to recognize and to perpetuate good film, right? Like at the beginning of every Academy Award ceremony, there's this big opening clip about like, look at how great movies are and how important they are, and we should make sure they're good and honored for that. Now, if that's the case, then how come we aren't being honest about what we get? And that really bugs me because 2008... there was no reason The Dark Knight shouldn't have won Best Picture.
What else was out? What else got nominated?
Benjamin Button, The Reader, Milk, and Frost Nixon.
Frost Nixon was good. Milk is the only other one that I could see should have been on that list.
But yeah, I mean, even a nomination, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem there being that we aren't, with the Academy, we aren't concerned with perpetuating the good movies that we say we are, as much as they're perpetuating the careers in the industry that we like. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge problem. We shouldn't allow, say, James Cameron to judge James Cameron, because he's not what we're making these movies for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, because you watch a film like Lawrence of Arabia, which for the longest time held the record until Titanic. Not to say anything against Titanic. It's not the worst movie ever or anything. It certainly deserved the success it got.
Right.
You watch a movie like Lawrence of Arabia, though, and you can see why it earned all the awards it did.
Right.
I mean, there's no case that you could possibly make that movie is anything less than perfect.
Right.
I know I'm stepping on eggshells saying something like that because someone's going to go, oh, what about this thing in Lawrence of Arabia? I'm like, I don't know. I was asleep by that point. The movie's 5 hours long.
But yeah, but to your point, like my Winter Soldier point, there are very minimal issues with that movie.
Yeah. No, it's just like, you look at something and you can see where all the awards came from. It's clearly a very technically impressive film. It's very well structured narratively. It has a great social message. It does all this stuff to advance the genre. It's a great film. There's nothing about it that doesn't hold up. Like, you can watch that movie when it came out. You can watch it today. You should be able to watch it, assuming people still speak English, and watch movies 100 years from now.
Right.
It's all really well done, and it should be able to stand the test of time, whereas you look at some of these other movies that get nominated and win awards, and they're so, at best, of that year. And what I mean by that is, like, Juno didn't win, but you look at that. That movie completely wore off, like, a year later.
Yeah.
No one talks about, like, Juno was getting all this attention and interest for the longest time, but it's completely lost all of that. It showed itself that it wasn't that big a deal as a movie, and yada yada.
Yeah, and not to say it's a bad movie as much as it's not important.
Yeah, it's just a movie about it. Like, honestly, if you want a better movie about a pregnant teenager, Saved. Saved is a significantly better movie than Juno.
If you want a movie about a strong female protagonist that happens to be pregnant, Fargo.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I see your point in that respect, and that's something that the Academy should be able to see, and it can't if the only people involved in the industry are people in the industry. And so,
that's the problem. The playing favorites thing that I was talking about earlier is it's only people in the industry who are staying in the industry. You know, they're not bringing in any new blood year after year like they should be. Like, everyone's just, it's a big... God, I'm like Milan. I'm Diet Milan tonight. It's like a giant circle jerk. Like, everyone's just, like, helping each other out, and nothing's getting done.
Yeah, it's not something that can readily be fixed. It seems like the fact that older actors and older Academy members are dying out is the only way to get that system to improve. But even so, it would just be by half.
Bad thing. Like, anytime the only way you're getting progress in your system is when the people that are running your system keep dying of old age, that's a bad sign.
No, yeah, that's totally true. And I mean, there's going to be a point where we get like a little bit of a pinnacle of the Academy where this is where it's finally fair because all the old people are dead. And then it'll go back to right where it was because we're not fixing the system as much as we're just getting lucky with who's in charge of it.
Well, not necessarily. I don't know if it'll go back because the era we're in right now, all these filmmakers that will eventually get into the Academy are really frustrated because of all the issues we're talking about.
Yeah, so but then they would die out. There might be another
Academy,
generation that's just like the first.
Well, I mean, you know, time is cyclical. The question is, maybe once we get to this frustrated generation into the Academy, will they change the way the Academy works? Or will they continue to perpetuate it? Right. Or will they make sure that more young blood is brought into the Academy more often, as opposed to just keeping all the same people in?
Yeah, and I mean, again, my solution would just be add some critics in there, you know, the people that know what a good movie is, or at least their career is built on figuring out what a good movie is, are more inclined to understand what deserves an award and what doesn't.
Let me ask you this then. How would you do that without breaking the rules the Academy has already?
I don't think it's possible unless you just revamp the rules to begin with. Because I think the rules are the problem.
See, I get that, but at the same time, like, I was kind of ragging on it earlier, but I do understand the perspective of wanting to just be judged by your peers and not by critics, you know?
Yeah, but again...
There is something to getting an award from the people around you. Like, I mean, not that this would happen, but let's say that at work, I got an award, I got recognition or whatever because I did a really good job. But this award came from, I don't know, fucking high-up management person that only stops by the shop once a week, all right?
Right.
Or one of my coworkers who saw me working really hard decided, oh, man, he did such a good job and helped me out so much the other day. I'm going to bring him in, you know, a plate of cookies or whatever. Now, let's say that both of these prizes were of equal monetary value to me. I'm having trouble getting to my point here. I hope you see where I'm going.
No, I do, I do.
What I say makes sense. I think I'd hold the award given to me by my coworker in higher esteem than I would the person who may seem more qualified to make that decision, if that makes sense.
Okay, now here's my problem with that. One of two things needs to happen. One is, if you want that, and you want this to be the Academy, the industry recognizing itself, then you have to stop pretending that this is an award ceremony about the betterment and history of film. Because it's not. You need to get rid of a Best Picture category, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, whatever, and just leave it towards the industry, because you are not capable of making the call of stepping outside yourself and saying what the best movie is, if the whole point is to be within yourself.
Okay, I think I agree with that. I don't think they have to completely remove the category, but I think that it should definitely be...
Well, it shouldn't be Best Picture, then, at the very least. It should not, because who are you comparing that to aside from yourself? You can't very well be objective the way they claim they are if you're just talking to yourself about it. And if you don't want to do that, then you have to turn over the whole idea of the Academy Award to people that are best qualified to give out awards like Best Picture.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Academy should mainly be concerned with the Best Actor, Best Actress category. They can do Best Picture as well if they want, but I don't think it should be held as in high of esteem as it is.
Yeah, Best Picture can't matter if it's like being MVP of a team, where sure it matters, but it's not like you're the best player in the entire league or anything. And they pitch it as it is that way.
Yeah, I agree. That's the problem, is I don't think the Academy recognizes that it's for itself. I think it thinks that it's acknowledging only works that are of critical importance, when really it's not. It misses the mark because it's so obsessed with trying to only acknowledge works that it sees as important.
Yeah.
And so it shoves off, like, the blockbuster, the mainstream Hollywood stuff, and just completely dismisses it, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that also is concept and execution, right? So you get someone in the industry, like, say, James Cameron, and there's a movie out by one of his friends, and all he would say in his mind, because they're friends and because he's a filmmaker, is, well, you didn't quite do this, but I see what you're getting there, and so I give you credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the guy you want making the calls of what's going to last and what isn't, because he's just making day-by-day plays from what he's done. He has no sense of what's going to perpetuate throughout time. And, I mean, you can tell the last 10 years have been nothing but superheroes. When's the last time the Academy recognized a superhero movie? I'm not even saying that because I'm a comic book guy. I just mean, as a guy who enjoys film, as someone who follows critics daily, everyone admits that it's the era of superheroes, and they don't get recognition because these are not the guys who understand what they think they understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure how entirely related this is, but you did make me think about this. Neil Gaiman was given an interview about, the possibility of a Sandman movie and all this stuff, and, he's been approached about this shit for fucking years since, Batman 89 came out. And he said something to the effect of, the person in the room back in 89 had no idea who I was or what Sandman was or anything like that. The person who knew all that stuff was working, at best a desk in the basement of the building. But now the person in the room trying to talk me into doing this movie is the guy that was in the basement. Is the person that knows what's going on. The industry has changed over the last couple of years, over the last decade or two. And I don't think that the Academy has changed, is the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
That part's no longer Neil Gaiman, that part's me. I should have put end quote there or something.
No, yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. And we're getting hints of that in a sense, but all we're getting is continued patterns for the last 70 years. And you'll notice that no matter how many Academy Awards go out for Best Picture, Best Actress, whatever, it's always the same kind of performance, it's always the same kind of droll picks, it's always the same kind of droll winners. And not even to a consistent degree where these films have something in common, as much as these are films that this one type of person would like, and not films that are significant for film.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to look up real quick all the movies that have won Best Picture.
If you go back from 90s further, you'll see that there's a bit more of a variety, but that's only because there wasn't any sort of like consistent thread aside from westerns going on before then. Like you'll see like Beauty and the Beast and Silence of the Lambs get nominated together, but not because they have anything in common, but because it's just so many slow pickings for years like that.
Okay, Amadeus won in '84. I can agree with that. I need to watch that movie all the way through. I like, sad as it sounds, I fall asleep during good movies all the time.
It's a generational thing. Our pacing is not their pacing, and it's hard to get used to that.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, I have the hardest time going back and watching Star Trek TOS because I wasn't used to it.
I've been watching that. It's quite enjoyable, but I have to say something to all the like Abrams movie haters. The movies aren't that different from TOS, guys.
So
all right, so let's look here. I'm gonna look from 1990 to now at the films that won for Best Picture.
Okay.
Dances with Wolves, 1990. Silence of the Lambs, 91. Unforgiven, never fucking heard of it.
Oh.
Schindler's List, 93. Forrest Gump, 94. Braveheart, 95. Braveheart, Dances with Wolves, really up the same alley there. English Patient, vaguely heard of it. Titanic, of course. Shakespeare in Love, awful fucking movie. American Beauty, Watch Mojo puts it on every other list. Gladiator won Best Picture? What?
it was pretty.
Okay then.
Beautiful competing against.
Let's see here. Chocolate, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Aaron Brockovich? The fuck? 2000 was a bad year for film at best.
Gladiator was the best you could do there.
Beautiful Mind. Okay. Chicago. How did Chicago beat Gangs of New York? The fuck is going on here? Return of the King, I guess. Well, compared to Seabiscuit, okay, fair enough. $1 Million Baby, okay. Trash, yeah, those Departed, all those are up the same alley. No Country for Old Men, of course. Slumdog Millionaire. Hurt Locker, okay. I'm okay with Hurt Locker. King's Speech, terrible movie. The Artist, terrible movie. Argo, okay. And 12 Years a Slave. Everyone knew 12 Years a Slave was going to win. Yeah, but you can see the definite through line in all those movies. There's certainly a sense in tone of the ones that won Best Picture a lot of the time.
Or at least a sense in taste. Because I feel like the person that likes all of these movies is one person. There is one type of person that enjoys all of these movies.
Yeah, that's the problem with, like, I'm not sure if it's necessarily the playing favorites thing again, but it's, you tend to like the same things as people you hang out with a lot. Not necessarily just because you're hanging, or not necessarily because you like things, but just because you're hanging out, you tend to, get a taste for things. We did an episode of Geeky Gentlemen about a year ago maybe, called Bleeding Fandoms, and in that, it was Bill, Milan, and I discussing how Milan got me into H.P. Lovecraft, Bill got me into Godzilla, I got Bill into Doctor Who, I got Milan into Green Lantern. We all kind of just, when you hang out with someone enough, they keep talking about this thing, and eventually it just makes you get curious about it, and you want to get into it yourself. That's why I'm watching Star Trek. It's just, it gets you to a point where you just, you get enough interest in a thing that you get into it yourself and you see what's good about it. And not to say that there's not good things in all of those movies, with the exception of, what was it that threw me off completely?
King's Speech?
Yeah, with the exception of King's Speech, which is a terrible movie. It's about a dude learning to talk. Oh, the poor white rich man. Anyway, sorry. But you just naturally kind of get into the things. It's just the way language. It's just like the way language works. When you hang out with enough black people, you start to say the word nigga. It just happens. It's the exact same thing, I promise.
And clearly that's a flawed system.
Oh, I'm not saying it isn't. I can see where it's not the worst thing in the world, but I see a definite problem with how much stock we put into a system that makes its decisions in that way.
Yeah, and I mean, the next question here is to ask is how warranted or necessary are reward programs in the first place? Do we really need big golden validation for what we already know is going to perpetuate inevitably? And I would say no. Because if it's important, it's going to be important regardless. I don't know the last time the Academy ever made something important. If ever.
Alright, so taking that, I guess we have to kind of look at the alternatives, right? Because there's only, from how I see it, two other ways you can go from what the Academy has. Because you have the Academy, which is, essentially a club, right?
Right.
A club that votes for movies. And then you have one direct alternative, which is, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, the MTV Movie Awards, which anyone that wants to put in the effort can vote. And that's obviously just as problematic a system, because then things like Twilight win Best Movie of the Year. So then you have a third alternative, and I really can't think of a major thing that's out there, a major award ceremony that's out there that's like this. There's certainly, newspapers and websites that do their top 10 lists or whatever year after year. But you look at what you've been talking about, which is a critic-based award.
There is the Critics' Choice Awards.
Oh, I've never, ever heard of that.
Oh, no, that's an actual thing.
Okay, they need to market better. Someone needs to put some money into that.
Yeah, it's a good idea for most of the time.
What won Best Picture for them in 2013?
I want to say it was Gravity.
Really? Okay, I can support that.
Gravity,
not a perfect movie, but a very good movie.
Yeah, I mean that's a show that's entirely voted on by critics. So it's the most qualified system, if nothing else.
Indeed. Yeah, I agree, but does it get the results you want?
Yeah, but I think the fourth alternative that we're missing here is that we just don't have awards.
Oh, come on, then what's the come on, you gotta have awards.
But why?
I don't agree with that.
But why?
Just because there's got to be a sense of accomplishment sometimes. There's got to be a sense of, recognition from not just critics, not just the audiences, but other people in the community.
I mean, there is recognition. Ben Affleck doesn't need anything more than the fact that everyone will not stop talking about how great Argo is, so much so that the CIA released some issues with their movie about how accurate it was. I mean, when the CIA stops and comments on your movie, what more do you fucking need?
True, but I think you need some peer evaluation, though, don't you?
Okay, but then do it as a small ceremony between yourselves. What's the point of making it an award show? What's the point of having awards, How important was getting that middle school trophy for best all-around student to where you are now? Or to what your reputation was in middle school?
Yeah, but to be fair, I think the Academy Awards did start out kind of as a small group thing, and it just kind of got a lot of interest from other people.
Which I'm saying it maybe shouldn't have.
Well, maybe we shouldn't put as much into it, and I think that's where we started this at, is just why should we care? It really is just a group of friends being like, oh man, your movie was so cool. Yeah, that thing was so awesome when you did the thing with the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that 12 Years a Slave won Best Picture. I'm still going to watch Gravity and The Wolf of Wall Street and Captain Phillips and American Hustle. It doesn't make any difference. The Best Picture nomination only matters if it's attached to a movie that already has a reputation, and if it already has a reputation, then it doesn't matter if it has the award.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you go back just a few years and you go to, say, I don't know, 1974 or 76, when Chinatown was nominated, it didn't get Best Picture, but it's still remembered for far more than stuff like The Towering Inferno.
It lost out to Godfather Part 2, so you can't really blame it.
Yeah, you can't, but I mean, Chinatown is still seen as one of the greatest films of all time. So it didn't matter that it didn't win. It didn't need the award, but it didn't need the recognition.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think that you need the awards to, like, determine this is the best. No one can argue with it. But I think that it gives you an idea of where people sat at the time and...
But see, it doesn't, is my thing. Like, 2008, everyone was talking about The Dark Knight. It's nowhere on those lists. It doesn't give us an idea of where people sat at the time, because the people who decide this aren't with the times.
Well, not anymore. You just jumped about 30, 40 years there.
But, I mean, the point in that still stands, right? Like, what do we remember from 2008? Whether you're a critic or a crotchety old man, what movie do you remember from 2008?
True. I can't argue with that. And I'm not going to try to, but I don't think that, like, we should just throw out awards entirely. Just fuck them all.
I mean, I'm not saying it is definitively my position that we should get rid of them, but just from a argumentative exercise standpoint, what purpose do they serve? If what's going to perpetuates inevitably, then what's the point of celebrating what we know is not representative of what we're eventually going to get?
Well, if that's the thing, that's fine. That's a completely different side of things than how I'm looking at it. From that perspective, sure, no awards. But from a realistic, actual living in the world perspective, come on. You do get kind of curious. And, like, it's not that... If nothing else, I am perfectly okay with the Academy giving out awards for Best Picture, because if they pick a movie I like, then I can be like, yeah, it even got the Best Picture nod, and that's a little golden star to add on to it. And if they pick a movie I don't, I can be like, oh, what the fuck do they know? Which is ultimately what we were talking about with critics and artists earlier, but still... I don't know if I just proved myself as a hypocrite, Steve.
Well, I think ultimately where we're going here is on a argumentative basis. The Academy Awards and awards have no point, no purpose. But if you're a little kid and you got a sticker in class, then fuck it, it feels good, and you can't argue that away.
No, you can't. And like I was saying, I don't think that you need them to, like, validate the film or anything like that, but...
You don't.
It's nice when a film that deserves Best Picture actually gets Best Picture, it's a good thing. And when it doesn't hurt the film, so it's not like the awards process actively degrades cinema itself.
Yeah, and I mean, that just furthers the point of it being kind of superfluous.
Yeah, it is, but it's not like a horrible drain on the art form.
Yeah.
Which is the thing I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's totally fair. My issue with this more than anything is just the Academy doesn't validate its existence outside of just being a small club for people in the industry.
Steve, I want you to make me a promise.
Okay.
You will stop using the phrase validate its existence. I just heard you say that too many times. I'm like, that is such a weird thing to say. I feel like I'm talking to like an alien invader or something. You must validate your existence in order to survive. Nothing validates its existence, Steve, if you take the right perspective, god damn it.
I mean validates existence in the terms of what it sets itself to be. So, if you tell me that you're a movie about corruption in L.A., and you're not a movie about corruption in L.A., then you don't validate your existence on the terms you've set out for yourself.
Fair enough.
The Academy says it's this big fancy thing about the history and greatness and beauty of film and how it perpetuates throughout history and reflects our current views and aspirations, and it's not, so it doesn't validate its own existence.
I'm going to call you the Borg from now on, because that sounds like some Borg shit to say. And I haven't even gotten to the Borg yet. It just sounds like that shit.
Oh, the Borg are awesome when you get to TNG. They're so cool.
Okay. I'm planning to actually watch all the series in order of when they came out, and I need someone, if you're so kind, in the comments to leave me a watch order for where the fuck to put the movies and all of that.
Yeah, okay, I can do that. You're going to have to start watching a couple of shows at the same time soon with TNG.
Really?
Yeah, because DS9 and TNG were on at the same time.
Oh. Yep. Did they have a crossover?
I think one.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. DS9 is widely considered the best on a story and a writing standpoint.
Alright. Well, all that being said, was there anything else we wanted to say about the Academy? Steve has come down to the point where it doesn't validate its own existence, so it must be exterminated.
Exactly. The last thing I want to say in that respect is we haven't got the nominations for the 2014 films yet, but I can bet you that I know at least a handful of the movies that are going to be there. It's going to be Imitation Game, Theory of Everything, Gone Girl, American Sniper, what other artsy-fartsy...
Well, it's not going to have all artsy-fartsy, because you got to remember, they're trying to pull in more ratings, because to be fair to everything we've said about the Academy and the negative, their viewers are dropping off because people are catching on that they never pick movies that people like. They just pick, like, super artsy-fartsy stuff that no one's ever fucking heard of. And that only gets released, 2 movie theaters in the world.
Okay. But even with that perspective, at least those 5 movies that I've listed will probably, if not definitely, be on there.
And there will be some big blockbusters that did get a lot of critical acclaim, to be fair. It's just no one will pick them. I wouldn't be surprised if Apes made it on the list the same way Inception did. It's just not going to get anything except maybe a technical award, which it certainly deserves.
I doubt Ape's going to be on there, but I really want it to be.
I think it'll be on there. I just don't think it, don't get your hopes up because no one's going to pick it because no one wants to be the Academy member that picked a blockbuster.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if I was to pick, knowing the Academy's mindset of what the best movie on that list would be, it would be either Imitation Game or Gone Girl. So if they pick either, I'd be okay with that. Because I feel like that's justifiable from any perspective.
Okay.
Whether you are a crotchety old man sitting in your Academy throne room, petting your medal, acting like you still matter, or you're a 16-year-old kid learning how to be a critic on the internet, those are 2 movies that are pretty universal.
Okay, then. I don't have anything to say because I haven't seen either of them. Now, it's funny, a couple months ago I was like, man, we really need a turning biopic, and now there's a turning biopic, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and it's one that deserves the praise it gets.
And now, if we can just get a Tesla movie, we'd be good to go.
Isn't there not one?
Not that I know of. If there is, it's completely, underground, not important at all.
It's insane. You would think that Nikola Tesla would have a biopic by now.
Tesla biopic. No.
Huh.
Tesla movie. And documentaries. Oh, there's something coming out in 2015.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's cool. I know there's a Matt Fraction comic book where he's one of the main characters, called The Five Fists of Science.
Cool.
Yeah, he teams up with a bunch of people to beat the crap out of Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm seeing a lot of stuff about people who are in it, but I don't recognize any of the names. It might be a foreign film, which, I mean, it's not the worst thing ever, but, you know. Made in America has a meaning in one thing, and that's film.
Hey, as long as it's good, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't like subtitles in movies because it kind of negates the point of a movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. Snowpiercer was a South Korean film, but it's like 80-90% in English anyway.
Well, there's a difference between having scenes in another language and having to read throughout the whole movie, because then it's just distracting and you can't watch what the fuck's going on, and then you just completely lose the plot.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I hate watching subtitled foreign films.
Yeah. It has not, like, everyone goes, oh, Americans and subtitles. Like, no, it has nothing to do with the fact that there are subtitles and that I have to read. It's that I can't watch the movie anymore because I'm a slow reader. So not only am I not able to see what's going on screen, I'm also losing about half the dialogue every time because I'm not getting to, like, the second or third line in a sentence.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nuances and minutia to language that's important to understanding and hearing that you can't get from subtitles.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bitch. It's like, you know, Inglourious Basterds, great movie, and the subtitles actually work in that thing because you don't necessarily need to be reading them to understand what's going on.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Anyway, I think that's it for the Academy. Unless, did you want to give the Academy a rating?
I don't think so. I'm going to do the thing the Academy should be doing and not rate things. I am not rating.
Well, Steve, I'm going to give the Academy 5 out of 5 meaningless golden statues that won't fill the emptiness inside their hearts.
That's perfect. and just to be fair, this statue is of a man that actually existed who was trying to get a girlfriend, but he was socially awkward and outcasted, but secretly a genius. And so he helps our autistic little kids win some kind of fancy sporting event in the year 1945 while fighting Nazis that eventually became communists and saved the world with his brain and never got the girl because it's a tragic movie.
Yep, I agree. Okay, everyone. Awesome. So, Steve, side note, we're going to have to record on Wednesday night for this next week's episode because special guest and all that jazz.
Wednesday night. I will probably be able to make it. Okay, sure.
Okay. So we are reviewing The Nostalgia Critic.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought that would be fun. We're going to watch a couple of select episodes, and I've got a list here that I'm going to give everyone 1 second while I pull up the list. 1 sec, sorry.
Doesn't he have a movie as well?
Yeah, he has a couple, but they're not particularly good.
Okay, because I haven't seen those. I've just seen scattered episodes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to be doing a kind of like a, I don't know how to put this, a display or a selection, there we go, of different reviews he's done since the beginning till the current point in the career of the Nostalgia Critic, if you will. So we're looking at, you know, early stuff, some stuff that was in the middle of the Nostalgia Critic run, and some of the more recent stuff that's come out. And I picked one of these examples just for you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Just for you. All right, so we're going to be reviewing, we're going to be watching, and you can feel free to pull any other examples you want from other episodes he's done, but these are the ones we're going to be focusing on so that, you know, everyone has the same episodes in mind. Sorry, I keep talking and I'm not getting to what we're talking about. We're going to talk about Space Jam, Batman and Robin, Moulin Rouge, Secret of NIMH 2, Cat in the Hat, and the Power Rangers Turbo movie, blah, blah, blah. All of his reviews of those films.
Well, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies in there. I picked Power Rangers just for you. It was going to be either that or the Ghost Rider movies, but I don't know. Something about Power Rangers seemed more fun.
Especially because Turbo is just so fucking bad. Oh man, Turbo is just hard to get through.
Awesome. Good to know. Good to know. But yeah, those are the ones we're going to be talking about. Those are the episodes of Nostalgia Critic we're going to be talking about. Should be a good time. I just thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about the Nostalgia Critic, and hopefully we'll be able to get a Nostalgia Critic bit in front of the episode and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, having the ability to talk about famous reviewers while we ourselves being reviewers is going to be an interesting experience.
Yeah, it should be. Nostalgia Critics come up here and there on the show, but I figured it'd be worth it to devote an entire episode just to him.
Yeah, he's a fun case study.
Yeah, indeed. Of what happens to you when you review for too long.
Or you get too big.
Indeed. Alright, everyone, so join us next week when we discuss the Nostalgia Critic. Special guest Super DM 60... No. Yeah, shit, that's his username. Super DM 64. Dylan McCandles will be here. It took me a minute to remember if that's the right username. It is. He'll be here. For those of you that don't know, that's the same guy that does Demons from Outer Space with Bill, and he's a big NC fan, so I figured it'd be fun to have him on for the first time. Alright, that'll about do it. Everyone, thank you for listening as always. I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Politician.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing